Hello and welcome to InnoGrid TV in association with Engerati. I am now joined by Egon Westphal, who's the member of the board for Bayernwerk. And Egon, first of all, welcome. Thanks, thanks for making the time to be here. And one of the things that that's been discussed at InnoGrid, one of the themes is about integrating networks. But the other network that really needs to be integrated when you look at the clean energy package and the tenets it sets out about how consumers need to be integrated into the energy network. That when I sometimes listen to people, it seems like it's a big deal for people. But my question to you is, with the Energiewende, a German word which has now become an English word, and the work you've done in Bayernwerk, you know, in Germany you've had to start talking to the consumers, you know, otherwise it doesn't work. What are your sort of thoughts and experiences around that area?
I think you made perhaps the most important point in the beginning, the role of customers. And I think Energiewende, German word, gives a hint that we have, of course, what other people are discussing, we have in practice. And Bayernwerk is part of the Egon group, and we have different stakes all over Europe, but also in Germany, in the wind area and in the photovoltaic area. Bayernwerk is the photovoltaic area, and there we have more than 260,000 photovoltaic renewable energy sources in our system and connected with the customers, because most of that renewable energy sources belong to the customer. That means a lot of people discuss the word prosumer. All these customers are meanwhile prosumers. That means our system is already in this year a system of prosumers.
And your customers, when you say customers, this is of all sizes. This is industrial customers all the way down to someone's house.
Of course, but the huge amount, of course, comes from the captive customers, because they give the number of plants, the bigger generation units, of course, on the industrial side. But the change in the system you describe is always the same. You begin to connect renewable energy sources. Then you have the big challenge to integrate that. That means we, in recent years, have transformed our system basically. In the beginning, it was a rural system. The energy came from the big generation units in a local rural area to the customers. Nowadays, we have our system full of renewables, belong to the customers, and sometimes we have to send it back to the transmission system, to the European energy market.
So in the context of Bayernwerk, and let's stay there, because otherwise, you know, we're dancing around all sorts of other issues. How self-reliant is your network? Because you said that, you know, there are times when we have to send the energy back, but so I would imagine that there's quite a lot of time when you're just generating and consuming entirely. You could be an island, effectively.
Yes. Yeah. I think that is a bigger issue in the wind areas, where sometimes you have an original utility area for several thousand hours, something like an island, and you're an energy import system. In a photovoltaic system, it's more hundreds of hours where we're this island. But there are also dark areas in the wintertime. In the wintertime, of course, we strongly depend, as today, from energy flows from Europe, from other countries, from the big units, generation units.
And how do you see the progression moving forward in terms of the technology that is needed to balance it out? Because a lot of people have been talking about, okay, batteries and you know, we all know the noise that Tesla is making with their power walls, and there's some really innovative experiments that are going on, like Eneco have done in the Netherlands, where they've created a virtual power plant by saying, well, let's not try and resist this, let's work together. Are you looking at sort of similar things in Bayernwerk?
Of course, we have to investigate it. In 10 years' time, we don't have the big generation units in southern Germany anymore. When we can see the beginning of the storage development, we see a continuous growing of photovoltaics and other things. At the moment, we have more than 60% renewable energy sources based on the energy consumption. Today, 60%. And that means that the process will go ahead and will be supported by storage. And I think that is the main idea of the next step of the development. We see the sector convergence, but in the beginning it's a power transition.
Yeah.
But we have to come to energy transition, and that means we see mobility and heat transition. And that means in the next 10, 20 years, we'll see big steps in the further development of the energy transition towards a clean energy system.
And talk to me a little bit about, you know, what you call the sector transition. And it's been a conversation here, certainly in the panel that I chaired yesterday, where we had a gentleman joining us from Nissan, Renault, talking about EVs. And I think, you know, there's a huge potential there, because these electric vehicles are basically batteries, right? If you look at them through
Yes.
another lens. And are you already working with the car manufacturers to sort of say, listen, how can we cooperate here? Because one of the big issues is that if the car and the charging point doesn't have situational awareness or the smarts, it can't play on the grid.
Yes.
It just becomes like a...
Yes.
Yeah.
Adam, we are working as a PV laboratory in practice,
Right.
something like this. And
Yeah.
therefore, of course, we try everything. Really.
Yeah.
We have storage system in our system. We also cooperate with electromobility. At the moment, we install a lot of charging points for electromobility, because we see actually and currently a big push to electromobility. I think it's much too early to say what will be the outcome, but of course you can see at the moment there's a big push in the sector, and therefore I think in the next phase we saw over 5 years a big push to photovoltaic, and the next big push probably comes from this side, and we cooperate on different levels with pilot projects, with companies in cooperation to see what is the outcome. And as a company, we install a lot of charging points. Perhaps that is the future task of DSOs. We don't know.
Well, it's an endpoint, right?
Yes.
It's something that needs electricity. So in terms of where we are and what you're doing, there is another sort of notion that I've put forward, and also in some of the pieces that I've written, whereby where I've said that if we are really going to go to a renewable first situation, like any distributed system, it needs to push past a tipping point. You know, if you just have 10% renewables, it's annoying. Yeah, 20%, it's even more annoying. But when you get past, say, 50 or 60%, it actually becomes a and very resilient system. Is that what you've experienced as well? Do you think that, I mean, you mentioned that you're at 60-70% renewables. Do you think you need to go a little bit further before everything starts harmonizing?
I think there are different levels. I think the first phase, we have in Germany an incentive regime, Renewable Energy Act, which promote mainly the development of renewable energy sources. For example, we as a company dealing yearly with a 2.6 billion euro. To give you a figure,
right.
It is not a lot of money. That means the first tipping point from technical side is with the Energiewende, with the energy transition. The political support of this development has happened. Because meanwhile we have 60%, and in 10 years' time the big generation units in the south will no longer produce energy from the technical side. From the economic side, we don't have the framework, the market orientation, and I think one crucial point could be do we have a process with photovoltaics, for example, without subsidies? And then, of course, everybody wants to have it. And you then will see a huge development in a short time. And I think in combination with storage, electromobility, heating transition, perhaps we can see that in a few years.
Yeah, and that completely changes the way the network works. So the other place I want to go to is, We have on our network people who are just starting out on this journey. And we often get asked, is like going, oh, how is the Energiewende actually gonna work? It's still a strange concept for people to wrap their heads around. A country like Germany ditching those old power plants, literally with a mission to go to. I mean, what is, if someone listening and is just really trying to get their head around what's happened and how it's working, what's your advice about the approach? Because I'm sure, when it first started in Germany, I'm sure the mistakes were made and lessons were learned. What are those?
Yes, I think the first thing is we are talking about the clean energy package on European level. I think the Energiewende is the clean energy package for Germany. And I think what we can see is a strong commitment from all our customers, from all over the political parties for this development. That's the first thing. And that gives the power to go the way. You can also ask if a rich country as Germany won't do it, who then?
Yeah.
And I think that is for the first phase important. Strong support, commitment by the political parties, by the population. But in the next phase, you need this customer-focused approach. At the end, it's not a game. And at the end, it serves the demand of our customers. And therefore, the system had to fit with the right market approach, with the right price signals, and of course, with the clean technical approach.
And there are a lot of people who sort of say that, look, if we, and it's like with any transition, you have the people who just don't get it and don't understand it, and they say, hey, if you put too much of this, variable generation onto a network, it'll all just blow up, it won't work. But my sense is that is the sort of challenge engineers relish, exactly. Right? And they're rising up to it,
Adam, you asked an engineer.
Yeah.
When I was young, the people said, 5% in the system, and then it's limited.
Yeah.
Now I'm responsible for an area where we have 60%. I think it's a huge chance. It's a real aspiration for us to work on that. And it's the expectation of the society, of our customers. And we have to work hard on it that we will be successful.
And just final question before we close here. How far do you realistically think we can push this? I mean, is the goal of 100% renewable generation, where is it actually achievable, or will we always have a small percentage where we need that sort of high ramp power that something like a gas turbine does for the balancing and things?
Okay. First of all, I don't think that is the first question we have to answer. The first question is, we really want to go the road? And the second is how we combine a system idea with the idea you are isolated alone. I think in an energy system, normally, there should be an idea to work together with different technologies over regions in combination between a European energy market and a local energy market. I think that is the main task at the moment, how we describe this picture of the future and how do we construct the framework that will work together. But I think in infrastructure business, in energy business, our history learned us cooperation is a good thing.
And I think on that note, that's a great place to leave it, that cooperation is a good thing. It's an overriding message that's coming out of InnoGrid as well. Thank you very much for watching InnoGrid TV in association with Engerati. We hope you join us again soon.